Welcome back to another episode of Acquisitions Anonymous. I'm Heather Endresen. I'm with Bill today, and we are talking about a really cool business. If you're into video games, you're going to like this one. This is a really fast growing manufacturer of collectible figurines, plastic figurines based on video games, comic books, even sports. They're growing super fast, $7.5 million of EBITDA. Really interesting episode. Check it out. Welcome. I am so excited to be here. I'm trying to stay warm in the Southern California summer that we're having here. I've got my warm coffee, trying to survive the 71-degree weather that we're having.
71 is cold in SoCal?
It's cold. I'm serious. For us, it's really cold. We haven't had sun in a whole month.
SoCal people crack me up. It's freezing. It has this, oh my God, 6 handle. It's 68 degrees.
Can't handle it. It's really sad.
Well, you guys, what you really want, right, in SoCal is like 78 and perfect, like it is almost all the time.
Right. That's what we want. But we're not getting it right now. So we're really, really cranky about it.
So Heather's in Southern California. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and North Carolina gets hot. It's 78 today already. It's going to be probably 85 today. And I was going to Canada last week to visit one of our manufacturers in the middle of the central part of Canada, like the plains part of Canada. But I still thought Canada, it's going to be freaking cold. Like this will kind of be nice, refreshing. I get off the airplane. It's 85 in Canada also. And I've only brought like jeans and, like a vest and like an idiot. Right. And so It was beautiful, but also, I don't know if you've ever been to Canada or even like Minnesota or like that part, but the mosquitoes were like the size of birds. I had like welts. It was nuts.
Oh, wow. I did something similar in Dallas one winter. Coming from Southern California, I just wore what I was, I brought clothes that I would wear here and realized that it actually gets freezing cold in Dallas and I had nothing to wear. And it was terrible. Yeah. You have to think about what the weather's going to be where you're going sometimes.
It does. Whenever we talk about Texas, without Gurley here, I'm like obligatory. San Antonio is the best. As he would always say.
Go San Antonio, yes.
All right, we got a cool deal today. This is another one from Axial Market, Axial.net. Not a deal source a lot of people know about. Everybody in our industry typically goes to like Biz Buy Sell or individual broker websites. But Axial is a place that I really like to go because they usually have bigger deals. So the way Axial is different is all the deals in Axial have an intermediary that is usually an investment bank as distinct from a broker. So they're usually more upmarket deals. They're represented by a professional intermediary, which is just really nice as a buyer, to be honest. I mean, Heather, I'm sure you've worked on deals that did not have an intermediary, and they don't go.
Yeah, they don't. They don't go very fast either. And these will go a lot faster with professionals that keep things moving really well.
At one point, I was trying to do a deal. We had it under LOI. The seller did not have a broker or investment bank or any intermediary at all. And it was such a mess because like the buyer did not, or the seller rather, did not understand what was a working capital adjustment, like how to present your financials in a way that I could digest them. And then I would present the financials and he would go, those are wrong. And I'm go, that's GAAP, man. Like this is how this works. And so it was just, it ended up in this nightmare spot where I ultimately offered to pay for his intermediary.
Wow.
I was like, I don't care. Here's 3 intermediaries. Pick one. I will pay the guy's fee. And they didn't do it. And we didn't close because we just couldn't ever get it done with the guy.
Wow. Well, working capital is probably the most challenging part of every deal that I ever work on for the sellers, even with intermediaries. It's just really, really challenging issue. I try to tell everybody, your deal's probably going to slow down when you're finalizing the purchase and sale agreement if your seller doesn't really understand the working capital peg, which they probably don't.
Heather, I'm interested in your view as a lender now, because in my world, which is e-commerce, almost all of our deals, and I disagree with this, I'll say this right at the beginning, but this is the way our market is. All of our deals are done as a multiple of SDE plus inventory. Which drives me bananas because you can't, buy the business without the inventory. You can't buy the inventory without the business. Why is it priced separately? It gives the seller no disincentive for like vastly running up the inventory count. It's not right. Like It's stupid. And it
Yeah.
also makes you think you're paying a lower multiple than you really are. But that's the
Right.
way that our business is. And so you just have to adjust for it in your models. Is that true, Heather, in other small business transactions, or have people finally started to wrap their mind around the working capital peg?
The inventory is usually included. So we don't have that, here's the SD multiple of SD plus inventory. Most are going to include the inventory. Once in a while, you'll see a deal where they claim their equipment is worth this huge amount, which maybe I disagree, probably isn't, or I assume it probably isn't. And they want the price plus the equipment. We can usually talk our way through those. Working capital is the problem. So some will leave it in, and some say, no, I'm taking all of it, which means you as the buyer have to add that to the price. You have to bring it in. You have to have some working capital on your balance sheet. So you have to consider it's that price plus whatever working capital you have to put on the balance sheet. And then it just depends. Are we talking about a working capital, negative, neutral, or positive business? Because it could be a big number. I did a deal last year that had a huge customer deposit component. Customers pay fully in advance, months in advance, and the seller would not let the buyer take any of that, which of course is not right at all. But we sort of backed into the math and said, the multiple seemed really low before, but if we add in the 2 million in that case of working capital that the buyer had to bring in,
Wow.
it still was a good multiple and it still worked. And so that buyer went ahead and did it.
Wow. So this business had $2 million of customer deposits. Um,
Yes.
and the seller wanted to keep that and then expect buyer to fulfill all those orders, of course, post closing, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. There's a cost to that. So it was interesting. We did a lot of analysis around working capital and how to come up with the right number, and future visibility to that on that one. But it was still a good deal with the seller taking it all.
The
Strangely,
stickiest
yeah,
wicket in deal work, I think, is working capital. The
yep,
seller I don't think I've never met a seller who thought the working capital peg was fair, ever.
no,
Ever. Uh,
no,
okay, but
that's right.
back to this deal, which is from Axial. So this is a leading U.S. producer of collectible statues. Heather, this one reminds me of episode 41, which I think is one of my favorite businesses we ever did. Episode 41 was an online seller of Lego minifigures, like the little Lego dudes. And they had thousands in stock. And like there's this whole industry of collectibles. And they were selling for $10 a figure. And, they cost nothing to ship. And they were free from Lego almost. It was an amazingly good business. And I'm hoping this one is
Wow.
halfway as cool as that one. So this one is a leading producer of collectible statues. It's been around for more than 15 years, and they have pulled iconic characters found on comic book pages, movie screens, and video game consoles from their 2D worlds and brought them to life in magnificent, state-of-the-art 3D sculptures that have a fervent global fan base. Project statues, limited edition statues, busts, and articulated figures, meaning they can move, are available in a variety of scales and price points, predominantly in polyresin or PVC, which is plastics, depicting cultural icons for the worlds of cinema, television, video games, graphic media, and much more. The company's CEO has a majority stake in the business and holds 80% ownership. So it's basically pop culture stuff. It says the company has licenses with many of the most important brands for the most iconic franchises and characters. Most licenses have been held by the company for years and are renewed indefinitely. That's very nice. It says Project Statue is at an inflection point. Despite the challenging macro environment, Statue has grown significantly in recent years, and they're at an inflection point, and management is looking for the right partner to help it further professionalize the business and seize a wide range of highly accessible growth opportunities. Due to some biz dev activities that's come to fruition, revenue and EBITDA projections for 23 and 24 have increased significantly. The company has leveraged its proven success in video game characters, and they've recently opened up a brand new line of business providing statues of game characters for video game collector packs to the video game publishers that are purchased either shrink wrapped or digitally. The growth of premium polyresin statues is driven by new characters for a variety of licensors, and the company's debut in sports figures, which represents a gigantic untapped opportunity. Delivery of units for the first video game publisher deal is expected in June of 23, which is right now as we're recording this, at which time TTM revenue and adjusted EBITDA is projected to be 16 million and 6.6 million for TTM. So hefty. and great margins, 16.7 million in sales, 6.6 in EBITDA. Absolutely killer. There's a spider on my microphone. It is like an inch from my face. Can you see it?
I can't. Oh yeah, I can.
He's like right there.
Wow.
Yeah, let me
This is
find a way to
dangerous.
mash this guy.
I didn't know this was dangerous work until now.
How did that happen? Let me find a way to mash this guy without smashing him into my foam here. Okay.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
I'm okay. I have survived.
All right.
Spider has not.
Sadly.
Okay. So dive. I don't know if they'll leave that in or not. Okay. Yeah. Diving back in. So importantly, by simply bringing order fulfillment for its online sales in-house, management estimates that the company would grow its adjusted EBITDA significantly, even above what is forecasted. So that means they use a 3PL currently. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like an expensive one. This company is based in the US, the southeastern region. And here's the stats. In 2021, it did 8 million in sales. In 2022, it did 8 million sales. In 2023, it did 20 million in sales. And they're estimating 20 million in sales in 2023. Yeah. And in 2024, they're estimating 24 million in sales. I assume this is the aforementioned video game stuff coming to fruition.
Right.
This is crazy. Their gross profit is about 45%. And their EBITDA has gone from, in 2021, 1.4 million. In 2022, 2.4 million. In 2023, they estimate it will be 7.5 million. And in 2024, they estimate 8.6 million. And those are EBITDA margins of about 35%, if you are keeping track at home. So, lot to see here. What is your first take, Heather?
Well, my first take is they are expecting, more than doubling of their sales, of their top line, while also improving margin, which is huge. That's a huge undertaking there. And they're trying to sell it before that big video game deal, really heats up or gets going. Because it sounds like they say they need help. They need further professionalization. This is now getting maybe bigger than the founders, dreamed of, and maybe they know they need, somebody else to come in and do the things that they're not great at. That's what my first impression is. But there's a lot going on when you're growing that fast.
Yeah, this is nuts. So the founder, I assume the CEO is the founder, considering he owns 80% of the company. And it, I will say, like, it's not totally selling a hope and a dream, because they said that delivery of units for the first video game publisher deal is expected in June 2023, which is right now. And that takes TTM rev and EBITDA to 16.7 million and 6.6 million, which is like almost to their 2023 projection of 7.5 of EBITDA. So like, I think this is happening right now. One thing that would be really interested to see is the balance sheet on this thing, because this is a manufacturing and inventory based business for the most part, and it's growing super fast. And those things suck cash because your inventory just inflates, right? As you've got, even if it's the same as a percent of sales, or your days of inventory are the same number of days, it's a much bigger number. So I wonder if part of what's driving them to sell the business or raise capital here is a working capital need.
It could be, yeah. And just like our discussion earlier, working capital can be really tricky. And anytime you have inventory of any kind, it gets even more tricky. How are they, what are their inventory management processes and systems like? How good a track do they have on this? Can they really tell you where everything is and how many days turn it is? Is there any obsolete inventory? It feels like you would have obsolete inventory with this kind of product, because I'm just, the popularity of certain figures may go in and out, and you have to judge how much to produce of X figure. I don't know the names of any of these comic kind of things, so sorry for those who might. But I'm sure there's a lot of just kind of gut feel that has to go into that. So you could end up holding some inventory that never sells, or that you have to sell at a discount.
Mm-hmm. Great point. I saw a business for sale once. It was a Halloween costume business. And they had something like $1 million of inventory. And when you looked at it, like 80% of it was from, old Will Ferrell movies that didn't hit and nobody even more pop, like they were never going to sell his inventory. No one ever wanted it. Or,
Yeah,
like from the
right.
meme Halloween costume that was 4 years ago that's not funny anymore, or
Yeah.
whatever. Like Hillary Clinton emails Halloween costume or something. Like no one's buying that anymore. you know?
Yeah, I had a deal. It's kind of different, but it was the threads, that go into the textile industry, and we kind of realized there was a chunk of inventory that was never turning, and so we were like, I think you have some obsolete inventory, and they said, no, 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 we save them for decades because the colors eventually come back. They were out of style colors, and they'll eventually come back. We're like, well, the way we're going to look at it, it's obsolete. We have to take it out.
Yeah, I have bridged that in the past by saying, fine, I will keep it. I'm not going to buy it from you, but I will keep it for 1 year or 2 years in the
Hmm.
warehouse. And if it ever does sell, I will pay you for it.
Oh, that's a smart way.
Right. So like I'm not paying up front, but like you can
Yeah.
hold the lottery ticket. I would still be glad to sell it because I'll make money. I'll pay you what its
Mhm.
cost is and I'll make revenue on it. So there's a spread for me. I'd be glad to sell it. You would be glad if I sell it, but I can't take that risk. I can't just buy you out of all of your terrible inventory decisions, up front.
Mhm. Right.
But a
Yeah.
key when you do a deal that way, though, is it needs to terminate at some point because if it's not moving and it's sitting in your warehouse taking up space or at your 3PL and you're paying them storage fees, like eventually you're going to want to dispose of this stuff.
Right.
So the way I structure it is like, look, I didn't buy it. It's technically not mine. So at the end of the 2-year period or however long, you seller have the option. I will either one, mail it back to you wherever you want it to go, whatever storage unit, whatever, I haven't paid for it. Fine, I'll send it back to you. Or if you decline that I send it back to you, it becomes mine. And
Mhm.
becomes mine basically lets me throw it away free and clear, right? Because it's
Right.
mine. I can trash it. So it's just, or I can sell it or whatever. But
Yeah,
that's
that's
usually how
smart.
I deal with obsolete inventory.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, back to this deal, I think on the inventory, it needs to be somebody who really understands the different characters and things that they're manufacturing. Yeah, you kind of have to be immersed in that world to understand what is popular and what might
Mhm.
not be popular. That would be one thing. The other thing, I guess, I always think about motivation to sell, and I think that's what surprises me here. You just got some great business development hits, right? That's what they're saying. And obviously, they worked at that. They're just now realizing not only this astronomical top line growth, but also improving margins. So why sell now? That it makes me wonder, like, there must be some logistical problem or concern they have that's sort of driving their need to do it now.
Yep. I agree. I want to talk to the CEO and founder about transaction timing. So one thing that's important to note though, is since this is an Axial deal, and there's kind of this hint here that says the company's CEO maintains a majority stake, holding 80% ownership. That suggests to me that he might be willing to stay, and they might be willing to, he might be willing to roll up to substantial part. Maybe he sells half, de-risks, takes some money off the table, and sticks around. So this could be as much of a capital raise as a sale, which is what, it's a little bit different. Like you also notice that there's no listed price when we do deals from Axial,
Mm.
right? Because this is like a big boy deal. All offers are on. It's like in commercial real estate, like anything that's for rent is also for sale, and anything for sale is probably for rent. Just kind of come with your own deal structure because there's sophisticated professionals on both sides. That's the vibe I get here. That like you could
Yeah.
offer them a price for the whole business. I think if you were to offer them a price for the whole business, it would probably have to be based on a forward EBITDA number, or you could
Yes.
offer them, some sort of minority deal, growth equity style.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. The it sounds like they want to stay, but they want to bring in some money and they want to bring in maybe some talent to help them through the next phase. Is they're more than doubling, and it's pretty exciting time, I'm sure, but also a lot of management challenges going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's a rocket ship. Even before the video game collector packs kicked in, it was 1.4 of EBITDA in 2021, and it was 2.4 of EBITDA in 2022. I mean,
Right. So they improved their margin on flat sales, which was pretty interesting. What drove that? Was it just a different product line that they brought in? Really interesting.
well, it could be scale. I mean, this is to some degree a manufacturing business, right? I mean, so these are plastic figures, right, that are made from PVC and polyresin, which means that they're just poured in different molds. But like you could be getting some scale on buying the plastic. You could be getting some scale on, heat it all up and just change the mold. So maybe it looks like a longer manufacturing run to the manufacturer. It's manufacturing. I could definitely see some scale. I could also see hitting a scale inflection point and being able to change contract manufacturers to someone that could do larger runs and give you better pricing. It was no longer a short run guy anymore. I could see this business having margins that improves with scale. I mean, that being said, 35% EBITDA is nuts. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just like you said, the fact that they're already at 16 million right now in June. So really almost, and they're only expected to go to 20 this year. So yeah, they're making most of the year by now.
Yeah, their 2022 was 8.3 million and their TTM is 16.7. I mean, they've doubled already in 6 months. It's
Yeah.
really, this thing's a rocket ship. It's very cool.
And who do we think their customers are?
Who are their customers? Well, they say it's to some video game publishers, but I also think it's, I get the sense this is a D2C or, business mostly that's selling online, that's selling, they might have some in some retail. I mean, I'm not sure, but it seems like they're opening this new avenue, which is selling the figures to video game publishers that seem to be kind of then packaged together and then the publisher sells it at
With
retail.
you buy the whole kit together and you get that. But
Yeah.
do people, what is the demographics of the people that want these figures? I mean, it's not just children, right?
Well, as you said in the pre-show, it's not just children anymore. It's,
No.
a ton of adults own these things. 'Cause I think it's like a lot of the adults that grew up with these characters as teenagers are now 35 and have money and will spend, 50, 100 more on the right collectible.
Yeah, really interesting. But do they trade them? Do they actually collect and sell? Is that the way this goes?
Some, but I think there's a lot of people that are just collectors. I bet the
Just put it up,
lifetime
put it
value
on
is killer.
display?
Yep, put it on display.
Interesting.
I mean, like, I don't know if you've seen these pictures on like whole people got whole walls, and they're all, in the original box and like I mean, these are collections, right? That you will see
Wow.
displayed in people's homes. I'm assuming they use the word premium and high quality and limited edition and stuff. So I assume that these are nice. And I mean, the price points on these can be hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
And when you consider that they're made of plastic, which costs pennies, right? You start to see how
It's
they have
like Beanie
35% EBITDA
Babies.
margins, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of Beanie Babies, where people were going crazy and spending ridiculous amounts of money for junk.
Well, so there you
Sorry.
go, though. Like, that's the
Yeah.
big risk of this business, right? Like, you want to, like,
Mhm.
is this are collectible figurines Beanie Babies or not?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Who knows?
wondering. Right. Is there a point where this is, goes from being really great to lame, no good?
Which is why I love that the guy is selling it right now. I mean, I don't know that I love it
Yeah.
as a buyer, but like, I get it. Like, could he hold it for another year or two and probably get more? Yes. But also, he's going to get a pretty good price even now. And he's going to de-risk substantially. So I don't blame him.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense there. And it's probably bigger than he ever dreamed,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? He
Oh,
he
yeah. I
probably
mean,
is riding a wave that he didn't expect.
the one of the things I really like about this business is that it is branded and licensed. So it says they've already got all the licenses in place with all of the big franchises, characters. I mean, I assume Disney is on that list. All of these are not easy to get necessarily, these licenses, right? They usually come with minimums and risk. You pay X% of sales or $500,000 a year, even if you don't sell anything. And they don't just take anybody. Like, you have to get approved. They only do so many licensees in minifigures in each industry. So the fact that they have this is definitely a moat.
Yes, but now he says that there was something about them being renewed indefinitely. How does a company like this risk losing those licenses? Do they just become more expensive each year that they renew if something is more popular? How does that look?
So I think they've got to be locked for a while, and then there's probably options to renew
Mhm.
indefinitely. So I think the company can keep say, oh, yeah, we want to take another year of risk. We're easily clearing our minimum, et cetera. You kind of renegotiate it. I think the deal here is they cannot be terminated by the brand. The
Mm,
brand can't rug pull
mhm.
these guys,
Right.
which you have to if you're going to build a business around it. But like,
Yeah.
and the fact that they're renewed indefinitely, that's not always true. Like you can get a 3-year license and no guarantees.
Yeah. I've seen some like that. Yeah, I've seen some from, the sports, side, where the licenses are it felt a little scary because they could be pulled at any time.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so these sound like they're stronger than that.
The nice thing also about this versus sports is like Captain America can't like get canceled. He can't like he's a fictional character, right? He can't like get drunk and hit his wife or something like an athlete can do,
Right,
right? Like you
right. Oh,
build your
very true.
brand around an athlete who, I mean, tears his ACL, does something
Yep.
cancelable, like whatever, and through no fault of your own, your business can go put.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
these are always gonna be their character. They're gonna be exactly what you expect. It's just a matter of whether that character continues to be popular, I guess.
right,
That's really it. Yeah.
right. Uh,
Interesting.
so Heather, how would you value this thing?
Oof. This is a tough one. It's way bigger than what I normally think of valuing, but high growth, and they're definitely gonna wanna trade on that future, EBITDA that's just starting to hit, and you don't know how sustainable it is, right? So, it's it I don't know, 7.5 million? I hate to
Is
guess right here. Uh, 10? Is that too high?
you think it'll
8?
be valued at 10 million?
No, I was 8, maybe
Oh, 10
8x.
times. Oh, 8x. So 8x, 7.5. So 60 million.
It could.
I was going to say close to 100 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think given the growth, given the moat that it's licensed, it's contractual, it's B2B, it's growing fast, value chain in place. I think they'll get valued on 2023 forward EBITDA, which is going to be 7.5. And I think they'll get north of 10 times. So I think it's 75 to 100 million.
I guess if you believe in the growth story, that could make sense, right?
You
If it
only
can
need one
continue to
private
grow.
equity firm that buys it. That's the thing about this stuff is you only need one true believer.
Right. Yeah, and there's probably a private equity firm out there who already understands this space really well, already has a thesis around it, and can see the growth potential that these folks see. And yeah, it's probably there. I just this is a new world to me. I don't watch these kinds of. I'm not a comic person.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just the growth makes it so hard to value because like TTM is 6.6, right? But 6 months ago, TTM was 2.4. So your TTM of 6.6 has 6 months of not usable numbers in it, at least, right?
Right. Yeah. What scares me about the valuation on this, if I was a buyer, is that, how long when something grows this fast and it's based on sort of um, trends, what people like, I just wonder how long does that last? 10 years of this EBITDA, that's a long time if you paid even 10x,
Oh, 10x is scary, but like at the same time, culture shifts. And in theory, they have the licenses. They just start making different ones.
different ones. Yeah, that's true. Right.
Like they've got the channels, they've got the relationships with the video game publishers. Like, so if you're a video game publisher, right, and these guys hammer out really nice resin statues, deliver them to you on time, and the publisher's making $5 million a year on it.
They're fine buying those. Yeah.
Yeah, like you
Right.
come out with a
Probably.
new game, you just call these guys again, and you're like, "Here's the character files. Make these characters. Like you're now our preferred vendor. Like, why would they switch?"
Yeah. Makes sense.
To me, this is with this kind of businesses is you're not in the Marvel business or whatever. You are in like a B2B sales channel value
Mm,
creation business where like
yeah.
you're the guy. This is in some ways it's similar to the promotional apparel business we did a couple episodes ago, where you just become the guy. Like when the company needs t-shirts, like you just get called.
Yeah.
If you can get in here, like when Marvel needs minifigures, they call you. you know,
Mhm.
you just make the minifigures. You don't got to come up with the next comic book character or any of that. You just wait for Marvel to have a hit, and then they call you, and you deliver on time with high quality, etc., and you just keep it going.
Wow. Yeah, makes sense. It's going to go for a lot, I'm sure.
I could see valuation on this thing sniffing 100 million. The guy probably won't sell all of it, right? Maybe he sells half of
Yeah.
his ownership, at that valuation, rolls equity and keeps on going. This is a
Wow.
cool one though.
It is. Well, should we wrap it up here?
Let's wrap it up. I love that one. Thanks to Axial
Yeah.
for sending us this one. Super cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Axial. What a cool one.
All right. That'll do it for another episode of Acquisition Anonymous. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.